The concept of gardening is nothing new to us as a species. For tens of thousands of years, human beings have been keeping plants for both agriculture as well as horticulture, first starting with cereals and pulses and later moving on to other crops. In the 1950s, the Green Revolution, where we brought modern scientific techniques for the production of new foods, was well underway. After the bombings of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, scientists saw plants growing both taller and faster than their non-radiated counterparts. This led to the public wondering what other uses this new nuclear technology would have in their day-to-day lives. Could this be the cure to world famine? And what else would happen if someone were to eat one of these plants? In 1955, US President Dwight D. Eisenhower launched the Atoms for Peace initiative. Scientists began trying to create new superplants, targeting characteristics like plant height, seed coat, maturity, seed strength, and a whole variety of other plant characteristics that would be beneficial for crop production. Now, this isn't anything new. Humans have been selectively breeding plants for as long as we've been domesticating plants, and the real benefit of this nuclear power is in the fact that it's now more efficient and faster to undertake this process. 5-acre greenhouses known as gamma gardens were created in order to house these atomic gardens. The way they were built is that you'd have a central column of cobalt-60, a radioactive material, surrounded by concentric rings of crops. Now, as you moved outward from this central column, you'd have crops which would be under heavy doses of radiation and oftentimes wouldn't survive. You'd move out a little bit further, and these crops would have a lot of cancers and tumors, and generally they wouldn't survive either. However, towards the outside of these rings, the furthest crops, you'd have new characteristics, new traits that would arise from these mutations that could potentially lead to more useful crops. And these are the plants that scientists were targeting. This technology was soon picked up by citizen scientists who wanted to grow larger pea plants and more colorful flowers for their gardens. The Atomic Gardening Society actually had an early crowdsourcing campaign where they would send seeds out to people that were willing to grow them, but then would ask for them to return the results of this experiment back to them so they could have a better understanding as to what was working and what was not, as well as what mutations these seeds had produced. Over 2,000 new plant varieties were created using this technology, and there's a good chance that you've tried some of these, from pears to grapefruit, even mint. You don't actually need to worry though, because these plants, even though they were grown through radiation, aren't radioactive themselves. You might be wondering why we don't have many gamma gardens today. Well, once the link between radiation and cancer became more clear, the public's attention turned away from gamma gardens. This, combined with the fact that newer, more efficient technologies such as genetic engineering were being produced at this time, meant that the gamma garden method was very inefficient. In addition, it was very costly to actually maintain these gamma gardens because not only did they cost a lot of money, but they didn't always produce varieties that could be used for agriculture. Gamma gardens are not all dead, however. Japan's Institute of Radiation Breeding is still keeping this tradition alive and well. In addition, countries such as Ghana and Bangladesh, which are looking to take advantage of the power of genetic engineering but can't necessarily afford the newer technologies, are still making use of gamma gardens. So even though we never got mutant tomatoes or radioactive carrots, for at least a short period of time, there was hope that this technology, which had taken the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, could be used to feed millions more. Plus, we got some pretty fancy varieties of grapefruit out of it. That's it for today. I'll see you next week.